of God are angels. So why would the sons of God be coming to God? You know, people believe that this happened in heaven. This had to take place on earth because we know Satan was cast out of heaven, and Satan can't just go up in heaven whenever he wants to. It says clearly that they presented themselves unto God. There was angels. Satan would not have able to be there. He wouldn't be able to be there at all if this took place in heaven. The sons of God that it's speaking about is regular men. Regular men. Now, when God asks Satan, you know, where he come from, he says, you know, from going to and fro in the earth and from walking up and down in it. So we're talking about this happening on earth. The only reason why people believe that the sons of God were angels is because of the Book of Enoch. And a lot of people we were born after the Book of Enoch came out. So a lot of people don't fathom that when people are taking this whole story from Genesis and mixing it in and making it seem like the sons of God is talking about is the same as the Book of Enoch. You gotta separate the two. We know that the Book of Enoch was supposed to be in there, but we don't have the original, so we can't say that. Now, for argument's sake, we're going to separate the two, and I guarantee you it's going to make a lot more sense. But here, clearly, when you try to analyze it, it's saying the sons of God, these sons of God were just normal men. Now, another thing, people don't realize what they read sometimes. When you read John 3:16, you know, God sent his only begotten son, only begotten son, only begotten son. Now, understand the begotten, when you read it in the Greek text, in Greek it's yoniventa. So yoniventa is begotten. But when you translate it, it means, what a transliterated word would be monogenes or monogenes. So mono, we know, if anybody's into music, mono is one. It's one. Stereo would be two. So mono is one. So you have one gene. Begotten is one gene in Greek. Yoniventa. That's what it's alluding to here. So as I said, if there were other sons of God, how come the Bible would, who were these people? Who were these people? So it's not talking about angels, and that's clear. If they were angels, the Bible would just say there was angels. And angels came down. Whenever it's talking about angels, it clearly says that they were angels or cherubims. When it says the sons of God, it's talking about the sons of God. It's talking about these men. Now understand, as I said, we are trying to figure out a parable here. If we're going to accept the book face value, you might as well just be a Christian. There's a parable here. It's a story here. We got to decode it. You got to break it apart because they put this here for certain people, not for you to figure out. But you got to understand what's being said. The sons of God are black people. That's who they are, the original man. And it's only going to allude to them at certain times. And you got to understand what is being said. It's so much going on in Genesis that is crazy. And it's very important that the Book of Enoch was created. If the Book of Enoch that you read, is not the original. It's not the one that was probably with this one. And who knows what it said, or if it was even really written and taken out. Who knows? We don't know. But the person who wrote the one that you are reading, the one that we know, is a genius, because they were trying to fill in the gaps, but at the same time, it's telling you something. And we're going to get into that. So now Genesis 6:4 says, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. So these sons of God that it's talking about are regular men, regular dudes. They are not angels. It doesn't say that they are angels. The only reason why people believe that they are angels is because they are taking the Book of Enoch and putting it into the King James Version. And we're only going to go by what the book has said. The Book of Enoch is something else. We're going to get into the Book of Enoch. Now, the daughters of men would be who? The daughters of men would be the daughters of men. Or they would be the daughters of the descendants of Adam and Eve. So we are talking about the sons of God, who will be the men, the first creation, coming in unto the daughters of men. the daughters of the second creation, which would be the descendants of Adam and Eve. This is important because these are two separate races of people here. That's going to be clear later on. But never does it say that these people were angels. When you go down and read where it says that there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, it said giants were in the earth in those days, and also after that. When were giants in the earth? When the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men. That's when. So think about it. It's not telling you that these children were giants. It doesn't say that angels came down. Now you would think that it would say definitively cherubims or angels came down and had sex with the daughters, or cherubims or angels came down and knew the daughters of men. It doesn't say that. And they bear children. It doesn't say that. It says the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men and bare children, men of renown, men of old. Now renown means famous. That these people were famous, they was heroes. That's basically what it's saying in the Bible. The Book of Enoch is something different. But you would have to think that it would say definitively that angels came down, had sex with women, and bare giants. Where does it say in the Bible that the children, the offspring of these men and these women were giants? It doesn't say that. It just says there were there were giants in the earth in those days and after that. So the question becomes, when you read this, let's just say the flood happened. Big flood wiped out everybody's dead and gone, right? So the offspring of the so-called angels who came down and had sex with the daughters of men, these giants, these Nephilim or what have you, they're dead, they're all gone. Now, how come giants show up later? So the Bible tells you that all of the angels, I think it's Jude, the book of Jude, that it tells you that the angels who kept not their first estate was locked away in everlasting chains. So how is they still having giants? Were there giants after the flood? Yes. So if it was these bad angels, or the fallen angels who came and had sex with the daughters of men, how could there be giants and created giants? How could there be giants after the flood when everybody was wiped out? So you got to think about that. This is where the Book of Enoch comes in and kind of messes up a lot and confuses a lot of people because they mix in the two. You got to separate the two, and they are supposed to be separated, but they are also supposed to be put together. That's the thing. It's a giant parable, people. We're going to get into it. We're going to straighten the whole thing out. So now, I know this is going to piss off a lot of you who want to believe that, angels came down and, had sex with women and created these giant Nephilim, these giants, and the giants was walking around, and giants built the pyramids, and giants this and giants that. So when we read that these men became men of old, men of renown, as I said, it basically means they became famous. When you look up, renown is, Gaborim in Greek. Gaborim basically translates to, like mighty, or, somebody who was fearless, like a warrior in Greek. And old, as we know, is aeones, or it's where we get aeon or age. So they became like warriors. They became famous men of the time, of the age. That's what it says. It doesn't say they had sex with women and created Nephilim. Nowhere in the Bible. You're going to find that in the Book of Enoch, and that's what happened. That's what's happening. People are mixing the two, as I've said. But now, when we get into the Book of Enoch, where this is coming from, you got to understand the background to the Book of Enoch and the history behind it. As I've told you before, you can't just keep grabbing these books, reading them, and saying, okay, that's true. You got to really study the people who created the book and understand who wrote it and why they wrote it and where it came from and the history behind it. And this is the problem with the Bible. People just, you sit in church and listen to the pastor or the preacher or what have you, and accepted what was said. And nobody did actual research on the book itself. Nobody did the research and realized where the book came from, who wrote it, and the history behind it, and the fact that we don't have the originals. And the manuscripts that we have are many, and they are full of mistakes and errors. Had we been told that from the rip, I think a lot of people would not have, become religious, as I said. But the same thing goes for the Book of Enoch. The book is suspect, and the history behind it is suspect, and the man behind it is even more suspect when we start digging into it. So now let's set the stage for this whole Book of Enoch thing. Where does it come from, and all that, and why do people mix Genesis with the Book of Enoch? We know most people believe that God killed everybody because the angels came down and had sex with the daughters of men and created these giants, and these giants was an abomination and they were destroying stuff, and that's why God caused the flood. Bible doesn't say that. Bible doesn't say that God destroyed the world and killed everybody because angels was having sex with the daughters of men. It says, and God saw, Genesis 6:5, and God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I made them. Now, it doesn't say nothing about what exactly happened. It doesn't say anything about, giants destroying stuff and angels having sex with women. It doesn't say that. It basically says God was pissed off because these people wasn't doing what he told them to do. It says in Genesis 6:12, and God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. That's all it says. It says all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. It doesn't say exactly what was going on or what was happening. It said that God got pissed as these people was messing up what he was trying to do, so he killed them all. Doesn't get into specifics. So where does this whole angels and Nephilim and giants come in at? It doesn't come in here in the Bible. It's coming from the Book of Enoch. And people are bringing it into the King James Version because people believe that it should be in there. So now it's weird because you have a lot of Hebrews who are now believing in the Book of Enoch. And you have your Christians and Muslims, once they figure out that, their religions is not, valid, it's no proof. You have a lot of people running to, different faiths. A lot of people want to get into the whole Anunnaki thing. A lot of people want to get into the Book of Enoch. And they are making the same mistakes as they did when they were in their original religions. They are not doing no damn research. But you have to do the research. Now the thing is, the Book of Enoch was thought to be in the original Bible. Then all of a sudden, it was taken out. People thought it was lost. But in the 18th century, a huge interest in that book was sparked. So now in 1767, a man named James Bruce goes to Ethiopia. He stays there for 6 years, and he returns in 1773 with not just one, but 3 copies of the Book of Enoch written in Ethiopic script called Giez or Giziz, however you want to pronounce it. 3 copies. Now, 1 copy went to the Bodleian Library in the UK. 1 copy went to Louis XV and is in the Scottish Museum. Another copy he kept for himself. Now, they basically sit on these copies, this highly sought after manuscript, they sit on it. And a translation is not done until 1821 when Richard Lawrence does this whole translation, and it's basically revised about 4 times after that, from 1833 to about 1912, when we finally get this, revised copy of, a revised version of the Book of Enoch. Now, of course, a lot of people were skeptical about the whole manuscript because you had people come out before and try to fake the whole manuscript, and it was proven fraudulent. But here you have, this Scottish writer and explorer who comes, he goes to Ethiopia, stays there for 6 years, comes back with 3 copies. So a lot of people was real skeptical about it, and it was a lot of research had to be done into it. Now, we know once the Dead Sea Scrolls was found that they did find fragments of the Book of Enoch within the Dead Sea Scrolls, but you can't really do a good comparison because there's only fragments in the Dead Sea Scroll. So now, the whole thing with James Bruce, and this is why I say you have to do your research on the people who give you things. Just because the book was, revised or redone by another person, they all did so based on what James Bruce brought back from Ethiopia. Understand that. You couldn't get any of the Book of Enoch that you are reading today without James Bruce and what he brought back from Ethiopia. Understand that. But now also understand who James Bruce was. He was a Mason, not just any Mason. He was a very high-ranking Scottish Rite Freemason from the Canongate Kill-winning No. 2 Lodge in Edinburgh. His family is a highly bureaucratic family full of Masons and is well known and well documented. He comes from a family of bureaucratic Masons. Everybody knows this. When you go to their site, when they list the former members that who has passed, you can go and find James Bruce. There it is. Here's his name. He's a Mason. He was a Mason, a very high-ranking Mason, Scottish Rite Freemason. So the book that you are also into, with good reason, because this is still a good book, don't get me wrong. But people who follow this book and say that, oh, this book is real, or this stuff actually happened, it's crazy. I mean, when you just read the Book of Enoch, it's like, come on. You can understand that it's parabolized just like the Bible. So James Bruce was a Mason, just like King James was a Mason. You need to understand that and stop, trying to follow every single thing that you read and try to believe in this, biblical stuff. It's not real. Now, another thing about James Bruce is this man can already, before he went to Ethiopia, he was already fluent in the language of Yazid, or the Ethiopic script. He can already read it and write it before he ever went there. So he already knew it, and that's another thing that's well known. So he went there, he stayed for 6 years, and let's speculate that he wrote the book. He wrote the Book of Enoch, he came back, or what have you. Let's just speculate that there. But he came back with 3 copies. Now, since we do not have the original, Book of Enoch, we can't really compare it to anything. We can't compare it. And you got to understand that people who are in control of these manuscripts are all on the same team. So, why would they do any, real comprehensive, comparison on the thing when it's the same people giving you these doctrines? Same people, they're on the same team. You got to understand that as well. So this is why I told people you have to do your research. You can't just be jumping on YouTube and looking at videos and saying, oh, well, this is true. This is why I give you book references. And I always tell people, question what I say. Go look into it, do your own research. Now, the Book of Enoch is a fascinating book. We're going to get into it more because it fits a lot with things that is going on. And, it all leads somewhere that I don't think a lot of people is going to expect this video to go. But after we get through the information, you will all be convinced, trust me. But understand, you have this Scottish Rite Freemason, right? He already reads the language, writes it as well. He goes away for 6 years. He comes back with the most, elusive book ever, that has been missing from the Bible. Very elusive. So many people have searched for this book and tried to fake it, but he comes back 6 years later with 3 copies of this book written in a language that he already knew. And nobody stops to think that, well, maybe he wrote it himself. Nobody stops to think it. He didn't even do a translation when he came back. He came back with the manuscripts. He did whatever with them, and that was it. He was a Mason. Why would you expect a Mason to give you any truth? They're secret people, secret society. Their whole job is to hide the truth or guard the truth. Why would you expect this man to give you any truth? Now, don't get me wrong. He gave you a book, a parabolized book with a lot of hidden meanings into it, just like King James did with the Bible. This is the whole reason why they make these books. It's not for you, as I told you before. It's for them. That's why he didn't do a translation, because it's not for you. And the translation that was done and what was put out to the public later in English for us is all parabolized. We're not going to know what the original said. We're not really going to know what the Ethiopic script says. And all black people see is, oh, well, it came from Ethiopia. It's our book. They don't want to do no damn research. Oh, it came from Africa. It came from Ethiopia. It's our Bible. And don't look into it. Now, I know that the Ethiopian Church added it to their Bible, but they did so after he found it. You know, they didn't do it before. Because if they did it before, then it wouldn't be an elusive book. It would be like, okay, I go into Ethiopia. It's not going to take me 6 years to find the Book of Enoch if they already have it in their Bible. So they didn't add it till later. The Ethiopians said, oh yeah, it came from Ethiopia, it came from us. Okay, well, let's put it in our Bible. That's all that happened. And you need to understand that. That's all that happened. Do some damn research. People just want to fall in love with every little teeny biblical thing because they don't understand. They don't want to understand. They want an easy way out. This is not going to be easy. This information is hard to come by, and you really have to dig and do research. You can't just be falling into stuff. But understand, it's not real. It's not. It's a parable book. It's like the Bible. The Bible's not real. The Book of Enoch is not real, but it's information that you need to take from it. So now understand, when we look at the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, now you got to realize the Ethiopian Orthodox Church was under control. It was controlled by the Coptic Orthodox Church of Alexandria. It was under control by them from the 4th century all the way up to 1959. Now, when you go ahead and look at the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, when you look at the Ethiopian monasteries like Abba-Garima, when you look at the walls, look at this place, you can see who they worship. You can see that these people have been brainwashed. They have been basically misled. Look at the walls. Look at the pictures here. You can see who they follow. Now, we are in Africa, and nobody looks like them. Nobody in their gospel looks like them. This is the illuminated gospel of Abba-Garima. Now, Abba-Garima was a Byzantine royal who came there in the 5th century. Now, they say that he performed miracles and he healed the sick, and that he wrote this whole illuminated gospel in one day. Now, the monks there in the monastery, the Ethiopian monks believe that the gospel has powers. I mean, that's it under the glass right there. Like I said, these people have been brainwashed. They don't know what's going on. They didn't even know they had the Book of Enoch in Ethiopia. They didn't find out until the word was put out, and then they said, okay, well, let's put it in our gospel. But that was already being controlled by you know who.